Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Green algae in a forest pond. One of the most primitive plants sharing the wilderness with animals and highly evolved man. Living together in a great interdependent web of life.
We are in the Rajaji National Park, 820.42 square kilometers of scrubland, ravine and dense forests. A canal, fed by the Ganga, splits it into two. Both the river and the canal water the national park. The Chilla range of the national park reputedly holds over 100 elephants. But, according to the Forest Department, the elephants feel hemmed in because this range is divided by a highway, a canal, and a rail line. The foresters also feel that the Gujjar herdspeople should be moved out of the park because, according to them, the Gujjars disturb the animals.
We have driven to Chilla to take a break and to see things for ourselves. It is warm in June and even the great white Pharaoh's chickens fly languidly in the breathless heat. Sunset is an insect strumming saffron glow in the jungle as we settle in.
The next morning is cool and we drive into the gate of the park. There's a daily fee of 50 rupees for a car and a 3-day fee of 15 rupees per person. Then our friends Hari and Rama drive in.
The jungle is still, locked in its own wonder. For all the stillness, however, we feel that we are being watched by 1,000 invisible eyes. There could be a large bull elephant standing behind those trees. There are at least 15,000 individuals in this termite colony. These little, pale, soft-bodied cousins of cockroaches cultivate fungus gardens, air-condition their earthen fortresses, and even breed an army of soldiers to defend them. At sunrise, the true ants become as busy as the termites. 2,000 workers in this colony do socially useful, productive work, round the clock, round the year.
As the sun rises, the spotted deer become visible, but only when they move. Standing still, their speckled coats merge perfectly with the dappled light of the forest. Every living thing in the forest occupies its own niche, essential parts of a great life support system. If one is disturbed, the whole system has to readjust. That is often a very painful process.
Sustainable destruction, however, is an essential part of that cycle. In Chilla, for the first time, we saw traces of elephant. They had ripped the bark off trees, probably pushed down this giant because they wanted to munch its leaves. But, judging from the state of the wounds on the trees, all this must have been done more than a week ago. Then the herd of elephants had moved on.
We thought that the foresters might know something about the herd. Sadly, they didn't. One of their riding elephants died some time ago. The remaining one was sick with arthritis. keeper, Aziz Khan, comes from a long line of elephant mahouts. He was consulting a book on traditional elephant medicines when we arrived, feeding his ailing charge with homemade pills. Nearby, little Raju, the perpetually hungry elephant calf, asked for food. He is an orphan. Some years ago, 4 adult elephants lost their lives protecting Raju from a speeding train. Ever since then, he's been here.
Wild creatures living free seem happier. These vultures, nature's great recyclers, were cruising in the glare-filled sky. Then they homed down and perched on trees. Only after due inspection, assessment and deliberation did they flop down, still wary.
Hari and Rama, dressed in dull colors to merge with the forest, climbed an observation tower to get a better look at the source of the vultures' animosity. The vultures disapproved of a jackal taking a cool soak in their waterhole. Such social disapproval was too much for the jackal. He hurried out of his bath, shook himself like a dog, then he loped away. The vultures taxied, took off and followed.
There was still no trace of the crowded elephants of Chilla. Other wildlife had, however, left their marks on the tower in spite of good advice. Who cares for good advice anyway?
Graffiti artists and more civilized travelers find Chilla a very accessible national park. It's 10 kilometers from the nearest railway station at Haridwar and 33 kilometers from the airport at Jolly Grant. The national park is closed from the 15th of June to the 15th of November. But even in the closed season, visitors like to take a break in Chilla, staying in the tourist bungalow at the edge of the park. The only suitable accommodation in Chilla is run by the state's Garhwal Mandal Vikas Nigam. Prices range from 320 for a room to 200 rupees for a hut, down to 40 rupees for a bed in the dormitory.
Visitor Ram Gopal Ramchandran, his wife Rashi, and daughters Aisha and Ankita came to Chilla just after the national park had closed in June. They couldn't see any animals, but, he said,
Today we went down to the Chilla beach to compensate and we saw some pug marks. So we let our imaginations run wild and we identified a tiger and a lion. So finally we realized it was just a herd of goats which had come to...
We, however, wanted the real thing.
We stopped. On a dusty road on the way to the village, we spotted Elephant Prince. He had walked down this road fairly recently. It was likely that he was a lone bull. He could have been a rogue, an embittered male with a bad temper.
So, to get more information, we headed for a Gujar village. Gujar Noor Muhammad, however, reassured us about Chilla's elephants. He said, elephants don't harm us unless they've been injured or are angry. There's one with a radio collar around its neck, another with a stump of a tail, the third has lost its teeth. They are the angry ones and we avoid them. The Gujar huts were beautiful. Built of bamboo and plastered with clay, they have no doors, as if their owners lived in harmony with nature. Noor Muhammad had told us that even when enraged elephants attack a Gujar village, they never touch a hut in which there are people. A sort of non-interference in the internal affairs of others.
Adjoining the huts is an old shrine. It's clasped in the roots of a dead fig tree. In time, it will be absorbed back into the jungle.
The Gujars had disappointing news for us. No elephants had visited their village or its environs for the last 3 days. They said that the animals had, probably, gone in search of water.
We set off again in quest of water.
A Nilgai watched us warily. In spite of its name, this animal is no relative of the cow. It is an antelope, one of the earliest known cud-chewing animals. Nilgais, however, can do without water for long periods, so they were no help in our search for the water-loving elephants.
These cheetah love good grazing and water, and there was water not far from where we saw them. But we've never seen spotted deer and elephant grazing together, and there weren't any elephants here.
Langurs are the self-appointed chokidars, the watchmen of the jungle. They take their duties seriously. We are not likely to surprise elephants with langurs poised to give the alarm.
Ah, those sambar are a hopeful sign. They love water almost as much as elephants do.
Water at last. But the irascible stop, stop, stop of the lapwing and its shriek, did you do it? Did you do it? Must have alerted all the other animals within earshot. This cattle egret didn't seem to care. He had donned his golden wedding garments, but there were no elephants at his wedding feast.
We found running streams in Vindyadhara, where the forest department has a small nursery. Yes, said the forest folk, elephants do visit us quite often. But then they added the familiar refrain, but we've not seen elephants for the last 3 days. Where had all the elephants gone? We were getting quite desperate. We made an offering in the temple of Vindhyavasini, atop a high rock overlooking Vindyadhara.
It was hot, and clouds of dust settled on us like gritty talcum powder. A jackal marked a tree, not too bothered about us, and walked on.
Then, in the glare-filled distance, we saw an animal standing rock-still. We peered closer and still closer. It's a gural, whispered a forest guard. Gurals, halfway between antelopes and goats, were once as common as blue jays, but interference by man has reduced their numbers. He vanished for a moment. Then we saw him again, superbly camouflaged. 2 of them. They looked like barking deer, prancing away happily.
A peacock danced, far more jubilant than we were. It then had one for the road. A jungle cock, too, had a sundowner. Birds assembled for their dusk discussions. A miner got his bearings. A pair of lapwings had a last snack, no longer on duty. We drove out of the gates of the park very disappointed. It was our last night in Chile.
Slowly the sun set in sulphurous anger, as if warning us against questing for the elusive elephant.
We were still sad as we packed the next morning. Then a forest dweller knocked on our door and spoke softly.
We raced out, breathless with excitement. We drove through leafless forests, jagged ravines, and green sal. We had driven through these terrains time and time again. Then we stopped, a short distance from the entrance. We had passed this spot on all our trips through the park. Today we looked very, very carefully. There was a fresh elephant footprint. Once, when we went too close, he warned us by pawing the ground. We backed away, changed our angle of approach, looked again. He became serene again. So we moved around again and again and searched for and found him again and again. His mood changed, and he too decided to take a break from us.
We turned around too, left the Ganga and Chilla behind us, and drove away from the forest. Somewhere ahead, a little to the east of south, lay the immortal Taj Mahal.